Greetings and welcome to another episode of Food is the New Rock, the podcast version. My name is Chuck P. I'm the music guy. Hello. And this, the food guy, Mr. MidtownLunch.com. Zach Brooks, how are you, sir?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Nice. So what are we on? Episode
79?
79!
I know.
You know what's crazy, Chuck? We've gone through 78 episodes and never had any technical difficulties. And this week's episode, we had our first technical difficulties. Yeah, I think it's
technical difficulties.
I feel like if you listen to a lot of podcasts, then you have heard this story before. But we had Patrick Stump, the lead singer of Fall Out Boy, on the podcast this week. And halfway through the episode, our recorder machine crapped out. That's code for ran out of batteries. And yeah, the first 10 or 15 minutes of the episode, luckily we were running a backup. So the first 10 or 15 minutes of the episode is going to sound like we're a little bit off mic, but it is still incredibly entertaining and easy to listen to, if I may say.
Easy to listen to.
It's not that bad, but you will notice 10 or 15 minutes in, there will be a markedly... a marked improvement in quality, and it's going to happen all of a sudden.
Yeah. A little jarring, actually.
Yeah, and that's why. So you'll know. Otherwise, you would never know. We probably didn't even have to tell you.
Probably not.
But I was super excited to talk to Patrick. Actually, Fall Out Boy had a triumphant return last year after a little bit of a hiatus. And Patrick, the lead singer, if you're a fan of Fall Out Boy, you probably noticed when they returned, he was way skinnier. I don't know, he got into shape and slimmed down. I mean, he's wasting away, basically, if you've seen him. But I was surprised to learn he's a huge fan of food. Don't let the skinny Patrick Stump fool you. Dude loves to eat.
That's
and
right.
He's gone in and out of being a vegetarian over the years, but right now he's in his reluctant omnivore phase. And he's sort of, sometimes he's vegetarian, sometimes he's not. We talk all about that, but he loves food, and he really knows his food, and we talked a ton. And we actually did, if you've been paying attention, we've started this new column for Food and Wine Magazine's blog online called Dreamwriter, where we ask artists to give us 5 of their favorite things when they're on the road that they would love to have, irregardless of price or even reality. So if it's if they want their grandmother's stew that they had when they were 7, they could say that. And so you can go to Food and Wine Magazine's blog and see a couple that we've already done. One with Noelle from Fits and the Tantrums. I think we did one with Group Love. And so we did one with Patrick actually before we started recording the podcast. It's not up on the blog yet. It'll be up in a couple weeks on foodandwine.com. But we kind of join in as he's giving us the 6th, he did an honorable mention, a 6th thing that he would love on his Dreamwriter. So the episode kind of hops in there, and then we're off. And real quick, if you want to find out more about Fall Out Boy, falloutboy.com. They'll be on tour this summer. The Monument Tour with Paramore kicks off in June. You can buy tickets and get info on their website, falloutboy.com. Nice. I think that's everything, Chuck.
Awesome. Let's do it.
You're listening to the Food is the New Rock podcast.
foodisthenewrock.com.
Nice. All right, number 6, honorable mention.
Number 6, honorable mention would be there was an Indian place on Devon in Chicago called Javed, and it closed down a decade ago. But they had my favorite dal sag, so I want that to come back from.
So it was spinach and chickpeas?
Spinach and lentils.
And lentils,
yeah.
Rare lentils.
And I don't know what the deal was regionally or dish-wise. I've never seen just dal sag on a menu since then.
Yeah, I've never heard of that either, because you get the sag with the paneer, you get,
or the dal makhni or the dal tarka, whatever, but this was dal sag. And not only that, but it was awesome. It was really, really good. It was really, delicately spiced and very, it was awesome. And it's gone.
Nice.
So I shed one solitary tear for Javed.
Yeah, maybe we'll include this last part in the podcast.
Right,
and if people want to see your entire Dreamwriter, they can go to foodandwine.com.
Excellent.
We'll leave the first 3 or 4 off.
Perfect.
Then. But was it spicy, the dal?
You could get it spicy. That was, and I usually will opt for too spicy if given the choice. I am a spice guy.
You're big into spicy food?
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
I mean, name it.
Just across the board.
Yeah,
your favorite Orichan was your favorite ramen.
Yeah,
not to give away another one of the Dreamwriter things, but
spoiler alert. Yeah, no, I really like spicy food. My dad, when I was a kid, used to when he would cook, he would always try and sneak it in. And you're a little kid, and you're like, Dad, this is obviously insanely spicy to me. You know, and whatever. Cause
how old are you?
I would you'd be like 8 or something, and this is a little bit. My palate is not refined enough for this, Dad. This is really harsh, and I think he just wore me down over the years. And then,
what kind of stuff did he sneak it into?
He was really fond of Cajun food. He would do a lot of gumbos and things like that. I remember there being a lot of okra. So whatever, he would make he would always make jambalaya and stuff like that, and it would have a really spicy sausage in it or something like that. And
you don't have kids, do you?
No.
I have 2 kids, and the thing we learned that I didn't know before is that kids don't taste spiciness for the first year or 2.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so I remember my kid once, we were eating Thai noodles.
Right.
And he just grabbed, before we had a chance, they were super spicy.
Right.
And before we had a chance, he just grabbed them, shoved them in his mouth, and we didn't have a chance to do the whole, no, don't eat that, it's spicy thing. And he just ate it, and that was it. And then he ate more, and he didn't cry or complain about it being spicy. And same with our daughter. She seems to be able to eat. So now he's older. He's 5.
Right, and now he hates
our
it?
daughter's 2. So I find that if you don't tell kids they're not going to like something, or if you shame them when they don't like something, then they end up liking more things in the long run.
Right.
So, rather than being oh, you don't like this, of course you don't like this, it's spicy, we would say, I thought you like spicy food. You love spicy. Because early on, he would say, this is spicy. And it's do you like it? He's like, sure, I like it. And it's oh, you like spicy food. But then now things...
And then you hold on to it
you're right. And
it's like law. You're there's precedent.
Is that what your dad did? You'd be crying. And he'd be like, no, you like this. You like this.
Well, he would just kind of try and sneak it by me. And it was just... I liked some of it. I definitely liked a lot of pre-spicy things, when you're a little kid and you're pancakes are as exciting as you get, that kind of Midwestern kid. I did really like, some hot sausages and things like that were a little bit spicy, right? But minor. But he really kind of forced the issue, and at some point he just won. I remember too. I think we lightly talked about this, but I did have a lot of Korean friends growing up, and a lot of their parents would just make whatever, and I have no idea even what I ate. But
you grew up in Chicago,
outside
Chicago?
Yeah, outside Chicago, a suburb called Glenview, and at the time, it was very heavily Korean area, and so a lot of my friends were
where you grew up.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like my dream.
It was really cool.
Sounds amazing.
It's really cool. It was definitely a thing that I kind of took for granted. It's one of the reasons why I'm really happy in Los Angeles, because there's such a thriving Koreatown, and it just kind of it takes me back. It makes me feel comfortable because it feels like home. But anyway, growing up, that was another thing that was kind of like the spicy challenge when I was a kid, was going over to my friend's house and his mom making some kind of soup that it was just insanely hot and wildly hot, and now probably wasn't even
right, but at the time, sure.
Yeah,
what other kind of stuff were you getting at your Korean friend's house?
There was kimchi. I remember this one time my friend and I we were playing in the basement, just running around playing tag or something, and we knocked over. I guess they had a really nice jar, big jar of kimchi that they had been saving or whatever. We knocked the entire thing over.
It was down in the basement, fermenting?
Yeah, and we knocked it over and ruined the entire thing.
Oh, so my God, because you have to leave it open for fermentation and stuff?
I think. It's hard, I was a little kid, so it's hard for me to remember,
right.
But I know that my friend and I, while playing tag, did shatter this giant, so... I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Song. I did not mean to...
Do you remember the first time you ever had kimchi? Because I feel like that's actually to get to eat kimchi,
Yeah.
because Korean kids like kimchi. I mean, there's obviously a cultural thing that goes with, but to get to eat it so young, I feel like that would probably open up a lot of, where, funkier things, fishier things, like don't necessarily like
fish
fancy
and
as
I are
much.
buddies. Yeah, fish. I never really had a problem with fish, and I don't know if that was part of it or what, but yeah, I don't really remember the first time I had kimchi because it was around a lot. I didn't eat it a lot when I was younger, but I mean, I had it and I knew what it was, and
I remember my first time because my dad said, "Try this. It's the grossest thing you've ever eaten," and I was like, "Why would I want to?"
Okay, how old and what did you think?
I was actually older. I grew up in Miami. There was not a lot of Korean food, but my dad was in the Korean War, so he loved Korean food, and. We ate a lot of different kind of ethnic foods, but they weren't like readily available. So I guess finally this Korean restaurant opened up in downtown Miami near where he worked, and he took me when I was, I don't know, maybe 15, 16, like around then. And he was like, "This is the most disgusting thing you've ever eaten." And I was like, "Well, it's so disgusting. Why would I want to eat it?"
What kind of challenge is that, Dad?
And he was like, "It's so disgusting that after a while you love it." And it was kind of true. Like I took a bite and I had no context for so it was obviously disgusting. But then 15 minutes later, I was kind of like, "Oh, I'm gonna go back and take another bite of this. Like see what's going on over here."
And the thing that I think is really cool about kimchi too is so there's the way it ages on your tongue, the way it changes on your tongue as you're having it, because there are all these things. There are some notes of insanity. Just really, you'll get that bite sometimes. Where you're like, "Wow, that was dark. That just got got real."
And from like restaurant to restaurant or place to place, there's so like some are more bubbly.
But that's the thing that I think is really exciting is that I find with a lot of I think that's why people get into wines or scotches or why there's aficionados for any of these things that have really strong flavors, because strong flavors usually mean lots of flavors, and that's a fun thing as someone who enjoys eating is you're not just it's like getting the in Willy Wonka where she has is it the bubble gum that's the whole meal? Yeah, where like as you're chewing it you get like all these different things, and that's a really cool experience that I think like something like kimchi you totally get that.
And then at the end you turn into a giant cabbage.
Totally.
Sounds like the greatest gum of all time.
It sounds awesome. And you just smell like garlic and fish. It's good.
So it sounds like growing up, like food was a really big part of your life growing up, or
definitely. I like food a lot. It's funny though, because I'll say that and people will be like, so do you cook? I'm like, no, never. Why would I cook? There's, I had my dad was pretty adventurous with food, which I liked. I really appreciated that because a lot of, because I growing up in the Midwest, there is also a circle of the world who are like, I'm fine with the, I don't know about this Italian food. That's a little bit racy for me,
Really? So, even Italian food?
You'll find those people where it's like, we're replete with pancake houses and not to say that there are amazing pancake houses. I'm just saying like there are people who like, they have their meal and that's it. There's a lot of, that classic meat and potatoes thing that, so I was always very pleased that my dad was very adventurous with food, and my mom would try too. I remember she made. I
feel like this is what my kid's going to be like when he's older. He's going to be like, "Oh, Dad was really adventurous. Mom, she tried. She tried."
It's weird because Mom has like some really kind of left field things that she really loves, but then once in a while she would like. I remember one time she made tofu for dinner. She tried to make tofu and not really knowing much about tofu in 1988.
Which doesn't sound weird in 2014, but like
like just putting yourself in the Miami Vice perspective of we were in the era of big hair and those white Reebok sneakers and whatever, and my mom was trying to make tofu, and I think that's all. I don't think whatever recipe she got, I don't think there was more to it than like here's tofu. So it was she regretted it, and to this day will complain that she even tried to do it. So. But Mom.
You don't want to discourage.
Just to show you your parenting. like I did not blame the entire food for that one. Like you showed me to try things and everything. So yeah, so food was a big thing. We tried. We always had. I'm trying to think. Like we did a lot of. We would often be the only people at the one blank place in the suburbs. So there's the. I can really only think of like one eat-in Chinese place even, which is crazy, but whatever. That kind of stuff,
Right.
So.
Wait, the only white people or the only people?
So
people?
a lot of only people. A lot of times, though. In high school, I think that was another thing that took off for me was going into a lot of that's a great thing, kind of great and lame thing about Chicago all at once is that. The lame thing is that no one culturally interacts with each other. So you have all these neighborhoods, and the neighborhoods are very, very segregated, like de facto. No one just gets to know each other between Greektown and Little India and Chinatown and whatever. But the cool thing is you walk into that place and you are in, it's like you're in, Delhi or something. It's crazy.
Right.
So that was really cool. So we would, that was kind of, I would say high school was where I got really into food, and we go to all these Middle Eastern places and go to Indian places and go to Japanese places and Korean places and and
with friends, family,
a lot of friends.
Nice.
A lot of my one of the other cool things was vegetarianism. I was for a while, and in high school that kind of forced you to, because there weren't very many we didn't have a lot of vegan restaurants and things. So you kind of had to find things like Indian food where there are plenty of vegan meals that you can get there that are really good and taste good independent of meat as a concept, that kind of thing.
That's the one. I mean, I have to say, I won't say I'm anti-vegetarian, but I have, the whole, vegetarian versions of, whatever, that whole thing. But if you take me to a South Indian restaurant where it's all vegetarian, the fact that it's vegetarian is beside the point. Ethnically vegetarian food is amazing. And you're talking about
when I was vegan, that was far superior to me than the veggie burger or whatever. And I've had that awesome veggie burger,
and this was before Chipotle.
Yes,
so
which is funny you mentioned that because I forgot that was before Chipotle. But we didn't really have a lot of options when because this also kind of back before blogs really covered this and whatever it was harder to find food as a vegetarian on the road because you really had no idea what you were dealing with. I remember this one time going into a greasy spoon kind of restaurant off ramp kind of thing in Idaho, and the closest thing to a vegan thing I could find on the menu were the potato skins. And I ordered them without the cheese and the bacon.
I was about to say, they didn't put bacon in their potato skins? What kind of shitty place was this?
Well, and of course, to the ire of the waitress who was like, "You one of them vegetarians?" I was like, all right. So whatever, but you would know the secret menu at Taco Bell or Burger King that that was the caliber of meal that we were getting, or this network of vegans that you knew would pass along information okay, there's a Chinese buffet outside of Philadelphia.
So now you're speaking my language,
right? Which was awesome.
Chinese buffet, is that a good vegetarian place?
Not always, but this particular one apparently, it was renowned in the vegan community because the stuff that it was basically the stuff that was obviously meat was meat, and then everything else was vegan.
Right.
And just either by cost cutting or what, I don't know.
Yeah, of course. But, it makes sense.
But it was...
You can't have expensive meats and seafoods on a cheap Chinese food buffet. So
exactly.
The restaurant's never going to win the game way.
So, yeah, totally. This is the Wagyu that we have. It was... so it was really... That one was actually really good. That was my favorite lo mein noodle Oddly enough, I really enjoyed their lo mein noodle.
Which on a buffet is hard to find sometimes because the noodles get all soggy.
Yeah, and they never
use
did.
the wrong noodles or they let it sit out for too long.
I don't know what they did to it. I imagine whatever it was really bad. I imagine it was some kind of some manner. When you narrow it down to plant-based ingredients and the fact that it was sitting out and somehow always was the right consistency, it tasted good. You're like, I don't know what oil that was, but it could not be good for me. So
when did things start changing? I mean, once the band became successful and you obviously were on much bigger tours, I mean, was it all catering? Are you getting to go out and find cool places only on days off?
Yeah. I mean, we would. One of the cool things is that as you tour a lot, you make friends, and your friends always have a spot. That's a really cool thing about. To this day, that's still a neat thing. Is I gotta take you to this place, whatever, and that's, and sometimes even though I'm not vegan or vegetarian anymore, sometimes that still is the vegan spot because sometimes there is I get excited when someone has an inventive, creative, tasty food that tastes good regardless of impersonating another food.
Right.
I like that's really a cool thing to me. So sometimes I'll still eat vegan stuff, but for the most part, whatever. You go to a place and you go to a town and somebody has some, you got to try this, or you go and you get your standards. We went back to that one. We haven't played there in years, so we haven't been back there in forever. But we would go there every time we were in town. So
which was
the Chinese buffet.
So it's still there.
It was.
Oh,
I mean for a long time. But
where was this again? I want to get this down.
In Pennsylvania somewhere. I want to say maybe actually outside of Erie.
I have a goal of eating at a Chinese food buffet in every state in the country.
State. I love this goal.
11 I'm through 11 or 12. I think I've eaten in one in Pennsylvania though already.
What states have you?
I mean, all the
already
typical, like California, New York, Massachusetts, Florida, because that's where I'm from. But the two weirdest ones on the list are Texas.
Okay.
I ate at a buffet in Texas.
How did that go down?
That had frogs' legs on it, which was pretty amazing.
That's banging. That's genius.
I ate at one in Tennessee, just outside of Knoxville, that almost got me divorced. Well, I wasn't married at the time, but the fact that my wife was still willing to marry me after I forced her to go to that buffet. It's kind of an infamous.
So it was really good.
Terrible. It was. It was. I thought it was delicious. No, even I was like, I'm so sorry.
Well, that's one of the tough things about. So it's funny bringing up your wife and how and as we're talking about food, it's interesting because at heart I'm just a fat guy and I just really want to eat everything, and I was very heavy for a while and whatever and so,
which I totally want to ask you about, by the way. But keep going. This podcast is going to last 3 hours. By the way, just so you know, we have so much to talk about.
This is an ongoing series. But so obviously, when you are the fat guy, you do like food, so you're happy to eat food, right? But that doesn't mean that you don't also like good food. But it also means that sometimes you're like, I just want to eat something. So sometimes I eat some crap. My wife is the exact opposite. My wife is exactly Anton Ego from Ratatouille when he says the thing. He's like, I don't like food, I love it, and if I don't love it, I don't swallow.
So
right?
So she's really she's got really high standards.
She does not play around. Like she doesn't like if the meat has a weird cut to it, if it's she knows more about, she's very good at cooking and she's very intuitive with a lot of it. So I've watched her argue with some waiters a couple times and about there's a restaurant.
Amazing. Hopefully this was after you got your food.
No, and I'm always like, babe, are you serious? Like, it just got spit in. You know that. Like, come on. How many friends? You used to work in the service industry. Come on. So, but whatever. But that was kind of a change for me because then just by virtue of proximity, I reap the benefits of her, of her specificity with food,
her desire for quality in every meal.
Well, and then that kind of, and that's always I think that's an interesting thing that changes your work. Because then sometimes when she's gone and I'm a lazy man, and you have that one day where you just don't want to get out of bed or whatever,
it gets gross.
Yeah, and you eat stuff. Like you like that's this.
Those are usually my Chinese food buffet days.
That's so good though. That sounds awesome.
So you didn't get that same with proximity to your band members. You didn't get the same sort of effect.
No. No, Joe is really into food. He likes a lot of really nice food, but he and I have, I think, just very different palates in general. Like he really. So I was thinking about like I'm not really as into I've had really excellent French cooking and and with the really rich foods and that kind of stuff, but that's not really like my first choice in food. It doesn't really jump out at me as like, oh, I have to have whatever. Chinese food,
and more actually on the Asian,
Asian food is an easy crowd pleaser for me, a crowd of one, and so whatever. So I think Joe likes a lot more rich food, so he and I would never really meet up on that kind of stuff. Andy's vegan, and we would go out and eat together when I was vegan. Sometimes we still do. But I think he seems to really actually like a lot of imitation foods and stuff. That's really a thing that he genuinely would prefer over. I usually lean towards ethnic food for that.
So when you're on tour, are you only going out to eat on days off, or what are some of your favorite places to visit on tour? Where you're just where you're like, I gotta eat at this place, or
wow. Well, now I'm gonna have to think. There's a great Chinese place in Philadelphia over by the Electric Factory. That's out of control. Like and we would go over there pretty much every time we play there. So and a lot of my friends in Philly would take us there and whatever. So that's a nice standard.
You don't remember the name?
I can't remember, but I mean, it's like it's
the place near.
If you Yelp from Chinese food from the Electric Factory,
it's the closest place. All right.
New York is crazy. New York was always crazy because New York's New York, but New York has so many little wonderful pockets of things, and there's this banh mi place that I can't remember the name of, but it's above some other place, and our managers would just take us there and grab a sandwich. It was awesome. So that's like that would be one, or Joe's Shanghai. When you have the time, when you have the time, you'd stand out there and wait forever. And I don't know. So there's a lot of. I'm trying to think what else. Chicago is tough because Chicago is home. So enough about it, but then you also have your standards. So
the places you have to eat at. What are the places you have to eat at when you go home?
Pretty much, like my wife and I have the same meal, the same like set of meals every time we go to Chicago, because every time we're there for maybe like 2 or 3 days, and in those 2 or 3 days we have Walker Brothers Original Pancake House every morning because it's the best pancake ever. Then we have. I think we almost immediately go to. There's a place called the Himalayan. It's a Nepali/Indian restaurant in Niles, Illinois, and it's awesome. It's just one. She's very picky. My wife is very picky about it.
Yeah. So if she thinks it's good, then
it's the only naan she'll eat. Like it's such good naan that she refuses to. Everything else is inferior.
So what is Nepalese food? It's kind of a cross between Indian and something else.
It kind of has colors of Chinese but it is predominantly very. I mean, it's very similar to Indian food. And then there's like these things called momo, which are almost like samosas in a pot sticker.
Yeah.
There's like they have a lot of different dishes that I'm trying to think, but whatever. It's all that that's one of our favorite restaurants, and so that's like our second stop. And actually, back to the spicy thing, they have a Nepali dal. I can't remember the name of it, but it's their specific kind of dal. And I'll always get that and ask for it like really hot. And this one day, one of the waiters came by and he's like, So that is a very delicate dish, and they put a lot into that. And when you spice it that much, you can't taste it. The chef has asked that you not have it that hot.
Oh, that's actually pretty cool.
And I thought that was really cool too.
And then you were like, "No, I'm still gonna have it that hot."
Yeah, I did have it mild or whatever, whatever the recommended thing was, and it was good. But I really liked it hot. so I may or may not go back there and order it really spicy
Nice.
on a regular basis.
And then overseas stuff. I mean, you guys have probably toured overseas a ton.
Yeah. I talk about buffets. One of my favorite things ever is across Asia, the hotels have these just out of control buffets. That's just what they do. And they're all like world buffets too. So you'll get at the buffet you'll have, there's a station where they make omelets and stuff and whatever and pancakes or whatever. But then they have Chinese buffet is one corner. Right. And then they have the Indonesian section, right? And then they have
sushi station, whatever.
Totally. They have and then they have Indian breakfast, which the secret is it's Indian food. That's all. That's Indian breakfast, and you're like, that's awesome. And that's. But we have one of our guitar techs is very very like-minded to me, and the two of us find ourselves there. Always at the exact same times going so where shall we journey to today, and that's one of my favorite things is traveling overseas, and that's just a thing that they've got on lock over there. We do not have the awesome hotel buffet that's that just goes on every morning for hours, and everyone's there too. They're packed, so
I need to join a band that goes overseas.
Need to.
Yeah, I need to
go.
Need to be eating at.
Go stay at that one
buffets.
Hotel in Singapore or that hotel in Jakarta. It's awesome.
So I'm guessing when you lost all that weight, you weren't on tour. Is that
no? Actually,
is that safe to say? Or
I was on tour. I was on tour, and we were on tour in. It was a very big tour. That's one of the other things that's interesting is that when you're on when I was talking about the Electric Factory or thinking about mid-size or smaller clubs, you're in the world. You're out in the thick of life, right? So you're across the street from that taco place or that I had an awesome, really awesome torta in San Diego down the street from this club I played there. Those kind of.
What's the club? We like compiling all these because I think we're gonna put out guides to best places to eat near music venues.
Shoot, my stepbrother's gonna kill me. I can't remember the name.
You can get it to us later.
Yeah. But whatever. Amazing. That was one of my favorite sandwiches, right? So that you get to experience when you're in arenas. I mean, you're in an arena, and that's it. I mean, that's the whole world, and whatever catering is, that's what you have. And
I was going to ask you, how is Taylor Swift's catering?
Awesome.
Really?
It was. As we've kind of discussed, I'm very into Asian food and a lot of other things like that. So it was not, it did not check all those boxes for me. It was very kind of, here's a. For lunch, here's a fish or chicken option and whatever, it was very kind of standard kind of stuff, but it was very good. It was awesome. Her backstage setup was crazy, and it was really funny because the rider goes out, and I really don't actually care about the rider. Usually, I'm like, I just need water. Just give me some water, and I'm fine.
And a bottle of scotch.
So. There is this rider, right? And everyone sees the rider when you go to places, and the rider has, a tray of fruit and a tray of vegetables.
Right, all the typical stuff. Hummus.
Right? Yeah.
3 pounds of hummus.
Yeah, that you throw away. You'll have one, of the crummy pita chips because they didn't really understand that you wanted pita or whatever, and you had to take the chip and then you throw away the rest of the hummus. That's usually what happens with your rider.
In the middle of the country, they don't have real pita. They only have pita in chip form.
That's right. I think that's it travels better. So because it's apparently coming from Jerusalem. I don't know why is it that
it dries and the trip over. I mean, yeah, you can't keep that
they
stuff
actually
moist.
weren't chips when they left. That's go figure. Shoot, where were
the rider.
So, but yeah, the only thing that showed up on my rider at that show was my scotch, and it was awesome. It was really nice scotch.
Like out of the whole rider.
Yeah. Out of my rider, and there was nothing in the room.
Just a bottle of
it was
scotch
a bottle
in the
of
room.
awesome scotch.
What was it? Do you remember?
I think that was a Macallan. I want to say. And it was like and I think they got like the 18-year or something. You know, you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
Thanks, cheers. So
I'm just starting to get into scotch. I haven't graduated fully yet. I'm still in the bourbons. And,
okay,
you know,
so an interesting thing there for me is that my uncle is really he lives in Missouri, but like kind of I don't know where Missouri kind of, and he's really into the culture of the South and those kind of things, and he is really deep in bourbon. Like he knows bourbon, and I don't know anything. It's like, you know, and when I started learning about whiskey, I thought it would be interesting to like. I was like, well, okay, I'll start in Ireland because there's only 3 legal distilleries there, so it's really easy to like know really get a sense of Ireland real quick. So and I got really into Irish whiskey, and then from there I was like, okay, well, Scotland, there's a few more, so I'll check that out. The States, it's like, you know, I mean, there's so many.
Yeah, bourbon. It's insane.
It gets crazy. So
does your uncle have like cases of Pappy Van Winkle like in his basement, or
I honestly I don't even really know. All I know is that, you know, he'll bring over stuff at Christmas for himself because everybody else has their, you know, like,
he doesn't get a rider at your Christmas.
Yeah.
He's got to bring his own.
So, you know, and you're allowed to have some of it, but really it's like a commentary on your drink selection. So he makes sure he has something that he wants to drink. So I haven't really gotten into bourbon yet. I think that's like further down the line for me, but
that's awesome. So real quick, 2 more things.
Yes.
So you mentioned talked about for the Dreamwriter for Food and Wine, you mentioned there was one city where your manager or somebody in the city bought each of the members of the band something that I thought was super cool. I want to hear like what each member of the band got. You got a bottle of
I got a bottle of Caligula, which is my favorite scotch, and so that was awesome, and I still have that bottle, and you know, I'm very happy with that. Actually, no, I don't have that bottle. I forgot about this. This is a funny postscript to that story. That's my favorite scotch. That's easily my favorite scotch. Brought it back onto the bus, and we had guests that night or something, and this scotch was like buried in the bus too. This was mine, so I didn't.
Yeah, you got to hide that. Yeah,
so I hid it somewhere.
Right.
And when I woke up, it was gone. I did not have anything to drink, but like we had all friends and stuff and family on the bus.
Your hiding place wasn't good enough.
My hiding place was not good enough, and it was totally gone. And this was a gift too. It wasn't just like our standard writer stuff. By chance, it was my birthday. And my dad had given me his present, and I opened it up, and that's what it was. It was the same exact type of bottle. So my theory is that either my bottle of Caligula was drunk, and then my dad coincidentally also got me the same Caligula, or that my dad snuck in the night,
and
wrapped it up, and regifted it, because that is somehow easier than just buying it.
Nice. So you got the scotch.
I got the scotch.
And then I expected it all to be food, but it wasn't. Pete's is probably the best one of the 4.
Pete is easily the best one.
Yeah.
Pete got an Optimus Prime from like 1985 or something like that.
Oh, you didn't mention that. Oh,
it was like
OG.
a real, like a real, like, so one of the things that with riders that's funny, and you learn as a young band, is that when you're touring, especially you're touring bars and clubs and things, you're lucky to get anything. You're lucky to get water, right? So, and that's what you ask for, because that's what you have to ask for. But college, and I think they don't do this quite as much anymore, but college shows used to not know that. Used to not know that like the rider wasn't actually like the gospel, and you,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
didn't have to-
It's some
yeah,
junior,
yeah, yeah.
like in college, who books the
Yeah.
shows, wants to make you guys super happy.
Yeah.
Is like, if we don't get every one of these things,
they're
they're
gonna
not
leave.
going to play.
They're gonna throw out. Like it's like they have these images of the green M&Ms thing or whatever. So they get you everything itemized on your rider. So an older band taught us this. We showed up to a college show one time, and they had this oversized foam rubber novelty cowboy hat filled with Pop Rocks and like nachos or something. That was on their rider, and they're like, oh my god, they did it! Like,
The title of this story is "How to Fuck with College Kids."
College kids, because fuck them apparently. But so that was one of the things that Pete put on 10 years ago as a joke.
Right.
Was he's like I want
Vintage 1985
vintage Transformers, but like I guess for a very short period of time early on they were made out of metal before they were made out of plastic. So the metal ones only,
has to be metal.
Has to be metal,
Right.
And lo and behold, that showed up.
That's
And we were
amazing.
all like, "This seriously?" Like, and I don't know. I don't collect.
I don't
toys.
even think. Do we need to hear the other two? I don't even think we do. Like,
No,
that's-
it was. I mean, Andy collects comic books. I think there were comic books
Right.
and whatever. And I think Joe got a lesser Scotch. But no, I'm kidding. I felt kind of bad because they gave me a really nice Scotch. And they
Listen,
were-
if he doesn't know the good Scotch to put
He
on the
does,
list,
though.
then
That's
he
does
he's
though.
gonna-
He's
he did it to himself.
Yeah, he's as into Scotch as I am. But
I feel terrible. I brought you a gift, but now that we're talking about Scotch and stuff, the gift is not like nearly.
I'm going to
it's
judge
not,
you harshly.
It's not nearly as good as.
I don't know.
the-
I might be really happy right now.
I didn't leave the receipt in here, but
I
anyway.
think I'm pretty excited already.
It's not. It's not a super
No!
expensive bottle of Scotch,
That's-
but
I love these things too. How'd you know? But did I talk about this somewhere?
somewhere, yeah,
Somewhere?
yeah.
I love
I stalk
those.
you a little bit on the interwebs, yeah, whatever.
Man, cheers, thank you. So
It's a Japanese candy.
yeah, and I just started reading Japanese. So it says meron.
It's phonetic.
Yeah,
Phonetic Japanese for whatever it says in English.
mero.
Oh, like meron,
Meron-
like melon.
meron-
Wait, are we
meroni.
we about to get offensive? Does it say meron like melon?
Yeah,
but melon.
That's that's mero gumi.
amazing.
That's what it says.
That's pretty awesome.
So thank you very much.
You're welcome. So, final question.
Yes.
Speaking of, while we're talking about
Yes.
booze, what kind of champagne would you choose to pair with Popeye's fried chicken? Is there-
A Veuve Rosé is my
Nice.
that is my champagne of choice.
Now, is
for-
there? I mean,
for-
Popeyes to me is. I'm a big fan of Popeyes.
it is one of the simplest, best foods.
Yeah,
there is
it's
nothing you can't-
it's such good fried chicken. Like I don't
It
care what
really
anybody
is.
says. I don't care what anybody says.
You want to know what though? This is the real. Is you obviously do this, seriously, and so you know a lot about food.
You're saying you just called me fat. Is that
No.
what you did? You called me fat?
Yeah, obviously, visually,
obvious to me.
You-
I
the
can
people
just
listening
looking
can't
at you,
can't
yeah.
see this. No, I'm saying because this is what you do, because you host a podcast. So I'd assume hosting a podcast about food that you've probably had some really good fried chicken, right?
Sure.
I traveling in my travels, I've been lucky enough and fortunate enough to have really, really good fried chicken. I will absolutely put Popeyes up against
right.
the best. It is a great fried chicken
And it pairs fantastically well with.
with Veuve Rosé.
Nice.
Seriously, try it. Your stomach will not be happy with you, but your tongue will, I guess. I don't know.
Nice.
It's the-
Nice, dude. Well, thank you so much. This was a ton of fun. I really
thanks for having me.
appreciate it. Awesome.
Foodisthenewrock.com.
That was a marked improvement in audio there. That only
Yeah.
a few minutes in. It was nice.
You're probably the only one that noticed, Chuck.
I'm sure I am.
Maybe there were a few other audio nerds that were like, "Man, well, that episode, the sound quality was very substandard for the first 10 minutes, but
Was it
then I noticed a marked improvement in quality about 12 minutes and 17 seconds. Really, yeah, it was awesome. Patrick, we had a really good time, and dude knows food, and hopefully the Dreamwriter we did with him will be up on the Food and Wine blog very soon. I've heard it'll be up in the next couple weeks. So you can keep checking at foodandwine.com and see some of the other Dreamwriters we've done with Noelle from Fits and the Tantrums and Group Love. And we've done a bunch more that should be showing up in the next month or two.
And Paul McCartney.
And yeah.
Wait, has that one shown up yet?
By the way, I think after what Curtis Stone said about Paul McCartnney last week, I don't think Paul McCartney's ever coming on the podcast. Because
that was hilarious.
He was a possible get.
Right.
We
were this close to that
up
guy.
until Curtis Stone insulted him.
Way to go,
Nice.
Curtis. You handsome devil.
Thanks so much to Patrick Stump from Fall Out Boy. Their tour, Monument Tour, starts in June with Paramore. You can get tickets for any of the shows and more details at falloutboy.com.
And you can find us at foodisthenewrock.com. Be sure to sign up for the newsletter at the top right-hand side of the page. We're also on Twitter at foodisnewrock, Instagram at foodisTheNewRock, and buy a shirt, damn it.
Yes. Put money in our pockets.
Money.
All right. See you next week.
See you.